Hello, this is my intervention plan video, and you'll see on the screen I just combined all of the kids onto the same sheet. I hope that's okay. And I've chosen out here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's 8 students, 7 kids from the R102 learning target. Wait, not all the students who are on the last element are on this element, and it's because I feel like a lot of those students that were on the last one that didn't demonstrate the adequate growth between the pre and post assessments are still are proficient, even though they didn't demonstrate the growth on the pre and post assessment. I feel like through conversations and through other evidences that they are proficient, and so I don't feel like they need further interventions. So these are the students that I feel like needed further interventions, and they are students 10, 14, 16, 18, 22, 24. And then my student 15 needs a couple interventions based upon both learning targets, LSO4 and R102. So I've grouped them, these 3 students, 10, 14, and 16. They all have misunderstandings of the themes. Sorry, not right now. They all have misunderstandings of theme topic versus a theme statement, and so therefore we've started to have some brief lessons where we're talking about the difference between topics and the theme statements. We're examining the student exemplars to see what other kids have done, talking about them, pointing to them, using text that the students are already familiar with and have already done some work on, and just kind of shoring up some of that knowledge. But the heavy focus is on the vocabulary and the acquisition of that vocabulary and the differences between those two, and hopefully that should shore up the knowledge on that one and give me some things. So far, so good. Number 18, 22, and 24 were students that all had problems when it came to summarizing, and like I said, I think that was more on my part, possibly, that I didn't focus enough heavily on summarizing, instead focus more heavily on the theme and theme statements. And so these students are going to get a little bit of extra lessons as far as summarizing goes, with focus overall on proper format of a summary and identification of the central idea versus the versus the summary being about something that wasn't totally really a main part of the story. And so I have given these students homework when it comes to summaries, which they were okay with. It wasn't the happiest day in the world for them, but we're trying to give them some practice on summaries. And then the student 15, and student 15 is one that I am going to meet with our CLD staff, not our CLD staff, excuse me, with our SPED staff, to try and get him a little bit extra attention. He's the guy who, remember, he loves sports, loves football, not totally interested per se in a story about 2 girls being friends, understandably so. And so we're going to try and get him some work, but he really ultimately, I feel like throughout the whole thing, his heads were kind of in the clouds, and he wasn't with us, and so I think this is just a little bit more, there's more of a need than just a few brief lessons to reteach and follow up on some things. This is more of a need to kind of reteach the whole scale, and so that's going to have to happen over a little more time than we have. Student number 15 also is one of the ones working in groups, and I realized that I failed to go over the LSO4 adequate growth in my last video, and so since he's really one of the only ones that failed to show adequate growth on LSO4, this should work. Student 15, when we did our working in groups pre and post assessments, he did something that I found to be very interesting. He showed me proficiency, and maybe I'll pull this up as I'm talking. He showed me proficiency in the questions that were multiple choice, and he showed me proficiency in that he knew what the proper elements to working in a group were all about. So, when it came to working in a group and being an effective listener, he was able to tell me what that looked like and the things that he should be doing. What he was not able to tell me was, he wasn't able to tell me. And so here we go. Like, what's one thing you can do? He knows that. What's one thing contributes to the overall group, and what's one thing you can do to work better in groups? And so he did well on those. The ones that he didn't do well on was, or not, I shouldn't say do well on. With the cognitive, metacognitive skill sets, I feel like a big part of that should be self-assessment, should be self-reflection. And so while he while he's answered questions adequately on the portions that were direct responses, um, on the portion of the test that they were self-reflection questions, he graded himself as a sometimes. So while he knows the elements that it takes to be successful in a group, he just doesn't feel like he does that all the time. And so to me, that showed a great sense of maturity and, in a lot of respects, some great understandings about life skills and metacognitive skills. Um, so now what I need to work with him on is some goal setting around that. And so what I've done is setting up a daily reflection where he needs to record his progress for working in groups and reflect on that and do some monitoring on that. And this is going to be a lot more than just a few week monitoring process type of a thing. I feel like this is going to have to happen with him over the course of the whole year. It's going to be, it's going to be reminders. It's going to be active listening skills. It's going to be more relationship building between he and I. It's just going to be a lot of different stuff. But that was a neat. It was neat, a neat anomaly to see. It's something different that I just I like to see that with my students. That while he knows the right thing to do, he's at least understandable. He's at least mature enough in a sense to say that he doesn't do it, even though he knows it's the right thing to do. So, anyways, like I said, interesting stuff, and so that's my plan. Like I said, everything's going really good so far, and so I'll follow up and next week. It'll be next week. We've been doing this for a week and a half, so with Christmas break coming up, I can't give it quite a full month. I hope that'll be okay, but that's where we're at. Okay, thanks.